The war room fell silent as General Krexvotha's mandibles clicked nervously against the metal table. His purple carapace glistened under the harsh fluorescent lights, and his 6 eyes focused on the holoscreen displaying casualty reports from the Terran front. The numbers were disturbing. "Tell me again." Krexvotha's voice crackled through his translator. "How a species that barely achieved faster-than-light travel 3 decades ago managed to halt our advance on 7 different star systems." Captain Zaranine, a battle-scarred veteran with missing antenna tips, shifted uncomfortably in her chair. "Sir, with respect, you weren't there when the humans made their stand at Kepler 442. What we witnessed, it defied every tactical principle we know." The general's compound eyes narrowed. "Enlighten me, Captain, because right now, High Command is breathing down my thorax, demanding explanations for why our supposedly superior forces are being outmaneuvered by these pink-skinned mammals." Zaranine activated her personal data pad, her clawed fingers trembling slightly. "It started 3 months ago. We had surrounded the human colony of New Geneva. Standard siege protocol: cut off supply lines, jam communications, wait for surrender. Should have taken 2 weeks, maximum. Should have," Krexvoth repeated dryly. "Yes, sir. Should have. But these humans, they don't understand the concept of hopeless situations. On day 15, when they should have been begging for mercy, they launched a counterattack that—" She paused, her breathing apparatus wheezing. "Sir, they used their own wounded as bait." The general's primary arms crossed while his secondary ones drummed against the table. "Explain." "They staged a medical evacuation convoy. Made it look like they were moving their critically injured to a field hospital. Our intelligence suggested it was the perfect opportunity to capture high-value prisoners, maybe even their commanding officer. We intercepted the convoy 3 kilometers from their perimeter." Zarnine's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "The convoy was real, sir. Those humans were genuinely wounded. But they were also armed and willing. The moment our boarding parties entered their transport, those injured humans detonated plasma charges they had concealed beneath their medical wrappings. Suicide tactique Krexvot mused. Desperate, but not unprecedented. That's what we thought too, sir, until we realized it was just the opening move. While we were dealing with the convoy explosion, human strike teams emerged from hidden positions we never detected. They had been waiting underground for 16 days. 16 days, sir. In flooded tunnels, eating ration paste, breathing recycled air, just waiting for the perfect moment." The captain's exoskeleton seemed to shudder. "They called it Operation Lazarus. They let their own people suffer, let us think we were winning, all while their real forces tunneled beneath our siege lines. When they struck, they hit our supply depot, our communications array, and our command center simultaneously." Krexvoth leaned forward. "And you lost the siege." "Worse than that, sir. We lost 3 entire battalions. The humans didn't just break our siege, they turned it into a trap. Every retreat route we had planned became a kill zone. They had studied our tactical manuals, sir, studied them, and figured out how to use our own strategies against us." The war room's air recycling system hummed in the silence that followed. Finally, the general spoke. "One incident, Captain. Surely you have more substantial evidence of this supposed human tactical superiority." Zaranine's antenna twitched. "Oh, I do, sir. Would you like to hear about what happened to Colonel Thexbrime's assault fleet at the Proxima mining station?" "Proceed." The mining station was supposed to be lightly defended. Intelligence reported maybe 50 security personnel, mostly civilian contractors. Colonel Thexprime deployed 200 of our finest shock troopers. Should have been a straightforward occupation. She manipulated her data pad, bringing up tactical schematics. The humans had converted the entire mining facility into what they called a roach motel. They let our forces enter easily, then sealed every exit. But here's the terrifying part, sir. They had spent weeks beforehand studying our species' psychological profiles. How so? They knew we are claustrophobic, sir. Our ancestors evolved in open plains, wide spaces. Being trapped underground triggers our most primal fears. So they didn't just trap our forces, they tormented them. They cut the lighting systems, leaving our troops in complete darkness. Then they began psychological warfare. Zara-9's voice grew strained. They played recordings, sir. Recordings of our mating calls, our younglings crying, our death songs. They knew exactly which sounds would drive us to panic. And while our soldiers were disoriented, dealing with psychological trauma, human defenders picked them off one by one using the mining station's maintenance shafts. The outcome: Colonel Thex Prime was found in the station's central hub, sir. Alive but changed. The humans had kept him conscious while they systematically eliminated his entire command. They made him watch, made him listen to every death scream over the comm system. When our rescue teams finally breached the station, they found him catatonic, repeating human words over and over. What words? Welcome to hell, bug boy. Welcome to hell. General Krexvoth's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation among his species. These are isolated incidents, Captain. Surely our forces have adapted. That's what Admiral Rexcorp thought, sir, when he decided to make an example of the human research vessel Discovery. Small ship, minimal armament, carrying what appeared to be scientific personnel. Perfect target for demonstrating superior firepower. The captain's breathing grew labored. The Discovery was commanded by someone called Captain Jake Morrison, former military, according to our intelligence, but officially retired. The Admiral decided to offer terms first, show the galaxy that we are merciful conquerors. Standard protocol. Yes, sir. But Morrison's response: I still have the recording. Would you like to hear it? Krexvoth gestured for her to continue. Morrison said, and I quote, Admiral, I appreciate the courtesy, but I'm going to have to decline your generous offer to surrender. You see, my crew and I have been having a rather pleasant research expedition, and your arrival has significantly dampened our mood. So here's my counteroffer. Turn around, go home, and we will pretend this conversation never happened. Arrogant. That's what Admiral Rexcorp thought. He ordered a demonstration of force, targeted the Discovery sensor array to show them they were outgunned. Morrison's next transmission was even more disturbing. Zara-9 activated an audio file. A human voice filled the war room, calm and conversational. Well, Admiral, since you insist on being rude, let me introduce you to my crew. This is Dr. Lisa Park, our xenobiologist. She's particularly interested in your species' reproductive cycles. This is Engineer Tom Bradley, who's fascinated by your ship's propulsion systems. And this is Weapons Specialist Maria Santos, who's very curious about your defensive capabilities. The recording continued. Now, here's the thing, Admiral. We have been monitoring your fleet's communications for the past 6 hours. Dr. Park has been analyzing your crew's biological stress indicators through your own sensor feeds. Engineer Bradley has identified 17 critical vulnerabilities in your flagship's design. And Specialist Santos has calculated exactly how much explosive yield we need to exploit those vulnerabilities. General Krexvoth's secondary arms had stopped drumming. They were bluffing. No, sir, they weren't. Morrison finished his transmission with coordinates. Sir, precise coordinates for where Admiral Rexcorp's flagship would be in exactly 17 minutes, accounting for orbital mechanics and the Admiral's predictable tactical positioning. How could they possibly? They have been watching us, sir, for hours. While we thought we were the hunters, they were studying our every move, learning our patterns, calculating probabilities. And then Morrison said something that still gives me nightmares. The captain's voice dropped to barely audible levels. He said, Admiral, the beautiful thing about being human is that we don't have to win. We just have to make sure you lose. Then the Discovery fired. Impossible. Research vessel against a battle fleet. They had retrofitted their mineral extraction equipment. Sir, turned their mining lasers into precision weapons. But that wasn't the terrifying part. The terrifying part was the accuracy. They didn't just hit the Admiral's flagship, they hit specific systems in a precise sequence. First the communication array, then the navigation computer, then the life support backups. Zara-9's compound eyes seemed to lose focus. The Discovery kept transmitting during the attack. Morrison was narrating every shot like he was teaching a class. This shot disables your emergency protocols. This one creates a cascade failure in your power grid. And this one is just because you made me miss my daughter's birthday. The Admiral's fleet, scattered, sir. 17 ships, reduced to drifting hulks in under 20 minutes. And Morrison? He transmitted one final message before the Discovery jumped to hyperspace. He said, "Thank you for the demonstration, Admiral. My crew learned quite a bit about your tactical capabilities. We will be sure to share our findings with Terran Command. Have a pleasant war." The war room fell silent again. General Krexvoth's breathing apparatus wheezed as he processed this information. Outside the reinforced windows, the lights of the orbital station twinkled like distant stars, each one representing thousands of a species' warriors who might soon face these impossible humans. "Captain," he finally said, "tell me about their ground forces. Surely individual human soldiers can't be as adaptable as their ship crews." Zara-9's mandibles clicked in what passed for bitter laughter among her kind. "Sir, would you like to hear about Sergeant First Class Danny Rivera and what happened at the Titan 7 mining colony?" "Continue." "Rivera was captured during our assault on the colony's main settlement. Standard interrogation protocol suggested he was just another human soldier, nothing special. But during his detention, something unusual happened. The captain activated another file. Our detention facility had been processing human prisoners for weeks. Standard procedure: isolation, minimal nutrition, psychological pressure to encourage cooperation. Rivera had been in solitary confinement for 12 days when the facility's security systems began malfunctioning. Equipment failure. That's what we thought initially, sir. Doors opening randomly, environmental controls fluctuating, communication systems experiencing interference. But the malfunctions followed a pattern. They always seemed to benefit the human prisoners. Zara-9's voice grew tense. On day 15, Rivera requested a meeting with the facility commander. Said he had information about human defensive networks. Commander X then agreed, thinking the isolation had finally broken the prisoners' resolve. And Rivera walked into that meeting room and said, "Commander, I want to thank you for the hospitality. The accommodations have been adequate, and your staff has been educational. But I'm afraid I will be leaving now." The general's primary eyes focused intently on his subordinate. "Leaving?" "Yes, sir." Rivera had been using his confinement period to study our detention protocols, our guard rotations, our security systems. But more than that, he had been teaching himself our language by listening to guard conversations, teaching himself our technology by observing maintenance procedures, and teaching himself our weaknesses by watching how we responded to stress. Zara-9 manipulated her data pad again. The security footage shows what happened next. Rivera simply walked out of the meeting room, past the guards, through 3 security checkpoints, and out the main entrance. Every door opened for him. Every sensor ignored him. Every guard looked right through him. How? He had reverse-engineered our security protocols, sir. Not through technical expertise, but through behavioral analysis. He understood how our systems think, how our personnel react, how our entire species approaches the concept of security. And he used that understanding to become invisible. The captain's breathing grew rapid. But that wasn't the worst part, sir. As Rivera was leaving, he activated the facility's emergency broadcast system. He transmitted a message to every prisoner in the complex. What message? He said, "Attention, fellow guests. Checkout time is now. Your bags are packed, your transportation is waiting, and your hosts have been kind enough to unlock all the doors. Please remember to tip your housekeeping staff on your way out." General Krexvoth felt his exoskeleton beginning to sweat, a stress response his species had developed over millions of years of evolution. The prisoners escaped. All of them, sir. 47 human captives walked out of our most secure detention facility like they were leaving a hotel. And Rivera? He left a note on Commander Kexthan's desk. What did it say? "Thank you for the lesson in Krex military procedure. The information will be invaluable for training purposes. P.S. Your coffee tastes like engine coolant, but I appreciate the effort. The silence in the war room stretched like a taut wire. Finally, General Krexvoth spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Captain, how many more of these incidents do you have documented? Zernine's compound eyes met his. Sir, I have been compiling reports for 3 months. I have 47 separate encounters where human forces achieved impossible victories through methods we can't explain, counter, or predict. 47. And those are just the ones where survivors lived to file reports, sir. The general's mandibles clicked continuously now, a nervous habit he thought he had overcome decades ago. What's your assessment, Captain? Your professional opinion? Sir, I believe we are fighting a species that doesn't just adapt to warfare. They transform it. Every battle teaches them something new about us, while simultaneously teaching us that everything we thought we knew about them was wrong. She paused, her breathing apparatus wheezing with exhaustion. They don't fight like soldiers, sir. They fight like scientists. Every engagement is an experiment. Every casualty is data. Every victory is a proof of concept. And the most terrifying part? They're getting better. Each encounter shows more sophistication, more creativity, more humanity. General Krexvoth stood slowly, his joints creaking with age and stress. He walked to the reinforced window overlooking the orbital shipyard where thousands of a species' finest warriors prepared for deployment to human-controlled space. Captain, I want you to prepare a comprehensive briefing for High Command. Include every incident, every analysis, every terrifying detail. Sir, they won't believe it. The reports sound like impossible fiction. Then we will make them believe it, Captain, because if we don't understand what we are fighting, we are not going to survive it. As Zarnine gathered her data files, the general continued staring out at the stars, wondering how many of those lights now shown on human worlds where impossible victories were being planned by species that had turned warfare into an art form. 3 days after the briefing, General Krexvoth found himself in the most uncomfortable position of his military career, sitting across from Supreme Admiral Texferon, whose 12 battle scars and missing left limb spoke of countless victories against species throughout the galaxy. The Supreme Admiral's crimson carapace gleamed under the conference room lights as he reviewed Captain Zernine's comprehensive report. General, Texferon's voice rumbled through his vocal synthesizer. This reads like propaganda fiction. You're telling me that a race barely out of their home system has consistently outmaneuvered our finest tactical minds. Before Krexvoth could respond, the door chimed. Lieutenant Commander Hexmorai entered, his silver exoskeleton bearing fresh scars from the recent Centauri engagement. His antenna twitched nervously as he saluted. Supreme Admiral, you requested my personal account of the Centauri incident. Indeed, the general here has been filling my auditory receptors with tales of human impossibilities. Convince me these aren't the delusions of a defeated mind. Hexmorai's compound eyes shifted between the two senior officers. Sir, I commanded the assault on mining platform Delta 7. Intelligence indicated 40 human civilians, minimal defensive capabilities. I deployed a full strike force of 300 elite warriors. Standard overwhelming force doctrine. Texferon noted approvingly. Yes, sir, but the humans weren't there when we arrived. The platform appeared abandoned. Life support minimal. No energy signatures suggesting active resistance. My advance teams reported finding only automated systems and what appear to be hastily abandoned personal belongings. The Supreme Admiral's mandibles clicked impatiently. Get to the point, Commander. The platform wasn't abandoned, sir. It was bait. The humans had retrofitted the entire structure into what they called a haunted house. They were using the platform's industrial fabrication systems to create false walls, hidden passages, and holographic projectors. Hexmorai's breathing grew labored. My troops began experiencing phenomena. Voices speaking our names in empty corridors. Shadows moving without light sources. Equipment malfunctioning in ways that defied physics. Within 6 hours, half my force was requesting immediate evacuation due to psychological distress. Your warriors were frightened by parlor tricks. That's what I thought initially, sir. Until I realized the humans weren't just playing with our fears, they were studying our responses. Every haunting was actually a sophisticated data collection operation. They were measuring our stress hormones through environmental sensors, analyzing our tactical communications, mapping our patrol patterns. The commander activated a portable display unit. On hour 7, the haunting stopped. Complete silence. My remaining troops thought they had won, but the psychological warfare had failed. Then a single human voice came through our communication system. What did it say? Thank you for participating in our comprehensive xenopsychological study. Your species' responses to controlled fear stimuli have provided invaluable data for our behavioral analysis protocols. Please proceed to Docking Bay 7 for your complimentary exit interview. Supreme Admiral Tex Vron's primary arms crossed skeptically. And your response? I order my troops to ignore the transmission and continue the mission. But when we reached Docking Bay 7, Exmorai's voice trailed off. Commander, there was a human there, sir. Just one. A middle-aged female wearing civilian clothes and holding a data pad. She introduced herself as Dr. Rebecca Walsh, xenopsychologist. She said she had been monitoring our mission and had some questions about our tactical doctrine. The Supreme Admiral's vocal synthesizer crackled with disbelief. One unarmed civilian. She wasn't threatening, sir. She was polite. She asked if we had a few minutes to discuss our experience on the platform. Said she was particularly interested in how our species processes environmental stress and whether our military training accounts for psychological warfare resistance. You engaged in conversation with the enemy. Sir, she offered us refreshments. Said she had synthesized beverages compatible with our metabolism and wanted to ensure we were comfortable during the interview. My troops were exhausted, confused, and frankly, curious about what had just happened to them. Hexmorai's compound eyes seemed to glaze over with the memory. Dr. Walsh spent 2 hours with us, sir. She asked detailed questions about our training, our fears, our tactical preferences. She showed genuine interest in our responses, took notes, even complimented our adaptability under stress. And then, she thanked us for our time, handed each of my warriors a small gift package containing what she called stress relief supplements formulated specifically for our species, and politely suggested we might want to reconsider our occupation of human territory. General Krexvoth leaned forward. The outcome, Commander? My entire strike force requested immediate transfer to non-combat duties, sir. Not because they were defeated in battle, but because they had been analyzed, studied, reduced to data points in some human research project. Dr. Walsh made us feel like laboratory specimens rather than warriors. Supreme Admiral Tex Vron's vocal synthesizer fell silent for several moments. Finally, he spoke. Commander, you are telling me that a single human scientist neutralized 300 of our elite troops through conversation? Yes, sir. But that's not the worst part. Dr. Walsh transmitted her research findings to our fleet command, along with detailed recommendations for improving our psychological warfare resistance training. She offered to collaborate on joint research projects to better understand interspecies conflict resolution, arrogance beyond measure, or confidence beyond our understanding, sir. The transmission included this message to Admiral Tex Vron and the command staff of the 7th Fleet. Thank you for allowing your personnel to participate in our research. The data collected will significantly advance our understanding of Krek's military psychology and will be invaluable in developing more effective nonviolent conflict resolution strategies. We look forward to future collaborative opportunities. Sincerely, Dr. Rebecca Walsh, Director of Applied Xenopsychology, Terran Research Consortium. The silence in the conference room was broken only by the soft humming of life support systems. Supreme Admiral Tex Vron's scarred carapace seemed to dim under the harsh lighting. General Krexvoth, do you have additional testimony? I do, sir. Would you like to hear about what happened to Battle Group Epsilon during the Proxima Nebula engagement? Proceed. Krexvoth activated his personal files. Battle Group Epsilon was our most experienced deep space combat unit. 12 heavy cruisers for 1,000 veteran warriors, commanded by Admiral Kex Thor. Their mission was to intercept a human supply convoy traveling through the nebula. Routine interdiction. Should have been, sir. But the human convoy wasn't running supplies. It was running an experiment. The convoy consisted of 5 vessels crewed entirely by what the humans called graduate students and our research assistants from something called the Terran Institute of Applied Warfare. Students. Yes, sir. Young humans, barely past their species' maturity threshold, conducting what they called a thesis defense in practical military applications. Their convoy commander was someone named Dr. Marcus Thompson, a human professor who had never served in their military. Supreme Admiral Tex Vron's mandibles clicked once. Continue. Dr. Thompson's initial transmission to Admiral Kex Thor was educational. He said, "Greetings, Admiral. I am Dr. Thompson, and these are my graduate students. We are currently conducting field research on asymmetric warfare applications in nebular environments. Your arrival provides an excellent opportunity for a practical examination. Please consider this engagement as a collaborative learning experience. Insufferable academic arrogance." Admiral Kex Thor thought so too, sir. He ordered standard attack formation, full weapons deployment. But the human convoy didn't run or fight. They taught. Krexvoth's voice grew strained. Dr. Thompson began broadcasting a running commentary on Krex tactical doctrine, analyzing every move our forces made in real time. He identified weaknesses in our formation, predicted our next maneuvers, and explained to his students exactly how our species approaches space combat. While under attack, that's just it, sir. They never fired a shot. They simply existed in the nebula, moving in patterns that seemed random, but were actually demonstrating advanced evasion techniques. And Dr. Thompson kept teaching. The general activated an audio file. A calm human voice filled the room. "Notice, students, how the Krex formation prioritizes firepower concentration over maneuverability. This is consistent with their species' hierarchical mindset and preference for overwhelming force solutions. Now, observe what happens when we introduce variable atmospheric density into their targeting calculations." The convoy was using the nebula's natural properties to disrupt our weapons systems while simultaneously giving the enemy a graduate-level course in our tactical vulnerabilities. Dr. Thompson's students were taking notes, sir. During a space battle, they were taking notes. Supreme Admiral Tex Vron's vocal synthesizer produced what might have been a growl. The outcome: Admiral Kex Thor's battle group spent 8 hours chasing shadows through the nebula, while a human professor dissected every aspect of our military doctrine for educational purposes. When the engagement finally ended, Dr. Thompson transmitted his students' completed research papers to our fleet command. Research papers. Comprehensive analyses of Krex space combat effectiveness, sir. Detailed recommendations for tactical improvements. One student had written what she called a comparative study of nebular combat applications, why the Krex approach to space warfare needs updating. Another had produced psychological factors in alien military decision-making, a case study in frustration-based tactical errors. Krexvoth's breathing apparatus wheezed. Dr. Thompson's final transmission said, "Thank you, Admiral, for participating in our educational program. My students have learned a great deal about practical military applications, and I hope your forces found the experience equally instructive. I'm forwarding their research papers to your tactical planning division. The insights might prove useful for your future engagements. Please don't hesitate to contact us if you need clarification on any of their findings." The Supreme Admiral stood abruptly, his massive frame casting shadows across the conference table. "General, these accounts suggest we are not fighting a military force. We are fighting an entire civilization that has weaponized curiosity itself. That's my assessment as well, sir. How do you fight an enemy that treats every battle as a learning opportunity? How do you defeat a species that turns warfare into a graduate-level course?" Before Krexvoth could respond, the conference room's emergency communication system activated. The voice of communications officer Lextrine crackled through the speakers. "Supreme Admiral, Priority transmission from the front lines. The human fleet is requesting diplomatic negotiations. Impossible. Put it through. The room filled with a new human voice, female, calm, and professionally courteous. This is Admiral Jennifer Park of the Terran Defense Force. We are transmitting to Supreme Admiral Tex Vron of the Krex 7th Fleet. Admiral, we have been monitoring your recent tactical assessments of human combat effectiveness. Supreme Admiral Tex Vron's mandibles locked in position. How did they? The human voice continued. We have noticed some inaccuracies in your data, and we'd like to offer some corrections. Your analysis suggests that human forces rely primarily on unconventional tactics and psychological warfare. While these assessments aren't entirely wrong, they are incomplete. What we haven't shown you yet, Admiral, is what happens when humans decide to fight conventionally. We thought you might be interested in a demonstration. We have a fleet of 200 vessels positioned at the edge of your sensor range. Standard military configuration. No tricks, no psychological warfare, no experimental protocols. The transmission paused momentarily. Admiral Tex Vron, we are offering you the opportunity to engage the Terran fleet in conventional space combat. Ship to ship, formation to formation, exactly the kind of warfare your species has mastered over centuries of conquest. This is Admiral Park's final offer. Meet us at coordinates 337.4 by 891.2 in exactly 72 hours. Bring your finest battle groups, your most experienced commanders, your most advanced weapons. We will show you what human warfare looks like when we stop being creative and start being serious. The transmission ended with a soft click, leaving the three Krex officers staring at each other in stunned silence. Supreme Admiral Tex Vron's vocal synthesizer finally crackled to life. General, in your professional opinion, is this a trap? General Krexvoth considered the question carefully. Sir, based on everything we have learned about human tactical doctrine, I believe this is exactly what Admiral Park claims it to be, a demonstration. They've spent months studying us, learning from us, adapting to us. Now, they want to show us what they have learned. In your recommendation, I recommend we decline their invitation, sir. Not because we fear defeat in conventional combat, but because I suspect Admiral Park's definition of conventional warfare might be very different from ours. Lieutenant Commander Hex Morai cleared his throat nervously. Sir, there's something else. The transmission included an attachment. A research paper titled Comparative Analysis of Krex versus Human Military Doctrine, a comprehensive field study. It's authored by the entire Terran Defense Force Officer Corps. They wrote a research paper about us. Yes, sir. And according to the abstract, their conclusion suggests that while Krex forces excel at traditional conquest scenarios, human forces have developed what they call adaptive superiority in all other forms of conflict. Supreme Admiral Tex Vron's compound eyes focused on the empty space where the human transmission had originated. General, prepare a response to Admiral Park. Tell her that the Krex Empire respectfully declines her invitation to conventional combat. Sir, and General, begin immediate preparations for a strategic withdrawal from all human-controlled systems. Effective immediately, the Terran species is to be classified as a Category 7 threat. Hostile intelligence of unknown potential. As the three officers filed out of the conference room, Supreme Admiral Tex Vron remained behind, staring out at the stars and wondering how many other impossible species might be out there, turning the very concept of warfare into something his people had never imagined. The war with humanity, he realized, wasn't ending because they had been defeated, that IT was ending because they had been educated.